So today we're going to talk about my favorite mode in the game, training mode. Specifically, how to properly use record command. I've noticed that a lot of people either don't use record or aren't fully aware how to use it, so I thought it'd be cool to go over the ins and outs of record command and give you a rundown on the most important aspects of it, and most importantly, how to use it to up your game in Dragon Ball FighterZ. So before we get started, the first thing you're going to want to do is go to your button settings and make sure that you actually have a button designated to both play and record of the training dummy. Without that, you're not going to get very far. Second, you want to go to training dummy settings and make sure that your record method is switched from normal to quick. The reason you want to do this is because when you have it set to quick, your training dummy will immediately go into standby the moment you press the recording button, and the moment you press any button after that, the game will instantly begin recording for you. The reason this is important is because you don't want there to be any gaps between you pressing play and your dummy taking action, which is what happens if you do not have it set to quick. So go ahead and make sure it's set to quick, and with that, let us begin. So why is record command so good, and in what situation should we rely on it? Well, basically, it's good for any situation. Any situation that comes up in a match where you think, this feels uncomfortable, or I'm not entirely sure how to stop this, that's where record command comes in. With the help of record command, you can recreate any situation that is causing you trouble in a match and figure out ways around it. Let's start with a very basic and very common situation. We've all been on the receiving end of this string right here. So this string has the option of going overhead, low, and then there's also the popular command grab. Of course, there's many more ways to layer that situation, but we're just using this as a very basic example. Let's say that you are in a set with a Gogeta, and those three options are being rotated, and you have no idea what to do. This is where record command becomes your best friend. So let's start by one taking all three of those options and placing them into record slots. So bring up your recording settings. We're going to go to slot 1. Again, make sure you're on quick. And we're simply going to record the first option. We'll start with the overhead. Nice and easy. Now we're going to go back to record settings and set to option 2 now. And now we will record the low on slot 2. And now on slot 3, we will record the grab. So now that we've got all three of these recorded, it's important to play them individually and see what your options are in those situations. So we'll go back to slot 1 with the overhead. Let's go ahead and play it. Okay, so now we're going to experiment and see what options do we have when this situation is happening. Let's try buttons first. Let's see what happens if we hit a button there. Okay, so buttons lose. So now we have that information. You cannot mash in that situation. What about reflect? Okay, reflect works. What about backdash? Okay, it is possible to backdash out. What about jump? Okay, so you aren't able to jump, but you are not punished for jumping, so that's good to know. Now that we feel like we have a couple of answers to that situation, let's go ahead and move on to slot 2. Slot 2 will test just the same way. So let's go ahead and see if buttons will work on slot 2. Okay, I'm hitting him out of it, so it does appear that buttons may be an option. Do it just a couple times just to make sure. So it would seem that buttons are in fact a viable option. What about backdash? Okay, backdash seems to work. Jumping? Okay, so it seems all of our options do in fact beat the low. And let's see, what about the grab? Do buttons work? So I caught my button there, but let's give it another try. Okay, so I did in fact beat it, so we learned two things. You can beat it with a button, but you have to be quick. Next is backdash. Okay, backdash seems to work well. And then we will try the jump. Okay, so according to our research here, backdash and jumping back seem to be the best option. But to know for sure, we're going to go to the playback method now and set it to random. So what this does is, whenever we press play, the training dummy will now randomly choose one of our recorded options. So now it's up to us to try to get out of this situation with the options that we discovered and see just how realistic they are. So let's give it a shot. And with that, we took a situation that may have felt uncomfortable and made it into something where, okay, this situation is happening, I need to do X, Y, Z. And again, there are many more layers to this. This is a fighting game after all. There's always going to be more things the opponent could do, more things you could do. Maybe your character has a reversal, maybe your character has a parry, you know, assists factor in, guard cancel, all that good stuff. But these are just minor, simple to understand examples of how to tackle a situation using record command. Let's try another very common situation, but slightly more complex. Let's say that you don't know how to dash option select. So what is a dash option select? It is the act of inputting a dash and then immediately hitting back. Now, what does this do? In Dragon Ball FighterZ, there is no penalty for dashing forward. So you are able to take the momentum of a dash, but still safely block immediately in case your opponent tries to counterattack. Now, what situation is this good in? The most notable situation that players use this is after a vanish. After a vanish happens, it's very common for someone to take their turn, which results in a very popular decision of backdashing. But what happens when your opponent starts to read that backdash? You get hit. Now, in order to alleviate this mix-up, players started using the dash option select after a vanish situation. So again, record command is your best friend when it comes to trying to get this high-level tactic under your belt. So again, we're going to record each option one by one. Option 1 being the opponent simply takes their turn after a vanish. That'll be slot 1. Option 2 would be the chase down. And then for option 3, we will do a dragon rush. Now in this case, we already know the answer to these situations that we want to reach, so we don't have to test there. We will simply go directly to setting these slots to random. Now again, the idea is you want to dash forward, block, and then after blocking for a moment, you want to press 5L. If you input all of these at the right time, you will dash and safely block a button, as well as break a potential dragon rush. And with that, we have covered the basics of record command in Dragon Ball FighterZ. People often ask me, what is the best way to improve at this game? And I always tell them the same thing, training mode and match review. Make a note of things that are going wrong in the match, and then that's when you bring that information to training mode, and usually record command is where you're going to find answers to questions that pop up. How do I get around this move? How do I stop this situation? These situations can all be recreated in training mode, giving you the ability to practice against them as much as you want, so that the next time these situations pop up, you are much better prepared than you were the last time. And that's going to do it for this video. As always, I hope this information was helpful. Thanks guys for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.